In the past, Europe was a preferred partner to do business. Over time, things have changed. We are not anymore the preferred partner. We are one of the possible partners. Can we reverse that trend? Operators need legal certainty to be sure when they start an investment, they are able to actually plan their investment term and they are able to deliver the raw materials for the downstream value chains. I work with IMA, which stands for Industrial Minerals Association Europe. We have 250 member companies, whether primary companies or national associations which have companies as their members. Our members operate in EU 27, UK, Norway, Switzerland, as well as Turkey. And they operate 675 sites all around Europe. And what is very special about our sector is that we source, we extract, we process, and we supply within 250 kilometers of truck transporting distances. And this is a very characteristic of our sector. Being so nationally operating within different member states or different European regions, what our members faced is the same piece of legislation is transposed differently within different European countries, or if the country operates on a regional level into region or lenders, for example, like it is the case in Germany, which means that coming from the same piece of legislation, the interpretation is different when it is nationally transposed. And for companies operating in multiple countries, they need to actually have a permit which is different. Even though complying with the same European law, they need to comply with different requests. So the first challenge, if I may summarize it, is the amount of European laws, but also their transposition within national or regional law and its interpretation. The second challenge we face is the timeline for the permit. If I take the example of the environmental impact assessment, is one European law where it is written that the authority needs to give a response to a permit within 90 days. And this timeline in different member states is 3-4 times longer. This means that when the authority gets the request to start an EIA, every time that they get the request, they can ask you more things because the scope of the EIA, it is not set between the authority, between the developer and the different concerned stakeholders. So this means that, for example, to do an EIA, you need up to 2 to 3 years to do the monitoring on site for our future operations. And this creates a lot of legal certainty for an operator. You know when you start the process, you don't know when you finish the process. Also, what is a major concern for our sector is the fact that once you get the permit, that permit, which has been following the EU rule of law and the procedure in place, you can be challenged in court by an NGO, for example. And then the legal proceeding starts. And by the time you have the legal decision, your EIA is already outdated. So this creates a lot of difficulties for operators to know or to make business investment decisions. And this is a major question mark, whether they will continue to operate in the European Union or they need to move outside. And I'm coming to the third point, is the value chain. If our downstream users are facing exactly the same difficulties as we are, and they are difficult, and they have difficulties to make the right decisions, then they will go elsewhere, where it is slightly easier to actually operate. Well, as I mentioned, the first difficulty is the number of different environmental laws that our members need to actually work with. They need to operate within the legal framework. So by the first recommendation, it will be to set the scope right. If we have the scope right, and maybe the law changes, or you have elections and the authorities are changing, then at least you have the legal certainty that this will be the scope you have to work on, even though externally there might be changes. So this will be a very strong and welcome recommendation by our sector to set the scope of the environmental impact assessment. Just to give you an example, one of our members, they need to do an additional study for protected species in one of the areas they wanted to actually operate. One statement, you need to do a study about that. It took them more than 1 year to finish that study. More than 1 year for one single species. Every time the authority comes with another request, it takes you time. You need to hire external experts to do the studies which are independent to make sure that you are able to demonstrate that you did it in the right way. So every decision has implication, whether financial, in terms of timing, in terms of expertise needed, whether at the company level, but also on the side of the authorities. So at the end of the day, if we set the scope and we legally freeze that scope, then you'll have at least the legal certainty. This is the list of actions you have to do as a company or as a developer. Another recommendation, as I mentioned, is that a decision following the legal process is challenged in court. And this can be done by anyone. If you follow the legal proceedings, if you follow the rules of the game, why getting a paper? It is meaningless because you are not certain to start working. Legally, you are uncertain. All this investment, all this time, all this work you have been investing, you and your teams, it's equal to nothing. So we need legal certainty. Operators need legal certainty to be sure when they start an investment, they are able to actually plan their investment term and they are able to deliver the raw materials for the downstream value chains. And we supply in a lot of different value chains, from steel to ceramics to water purification to agriculture. You name it, plastic, you name it, glass, and you'll have some minerals in it. All of these value chains, they depend from our supplied raw materials. So the legal certainty is for us as a sector up in the value chain, but also it's a very strong conditionality for the sectors down the value chain. And this needs to change. Let's also not forget, we do not operate, yes, we are within the European Union, but we also have to think that globally things have changed. And we should be agile to actually adapt to these new changes. When we received the invite by the Informal Coalition on permitting, we are very pleased because it was an opportunity to actually discuss what our issues are and get to interact with other alike sectors, which we work or we do not work on a regular basis. But it was the opportunity to see a bit how our challenges are faced by somebody else in another sector. And what we come to realize is that there are some common denominators. So the first added value of this informal but very valuable coalition is that you are able to, despite coming from different sectors, you are able to speak about common denominators. So this is the first important added value of this. It also creates alerts on the possibility to change things. And with the environmental omnibus, the opportunity is there to make things right. We have had all of these environmental laws for the last 20, 30 years. And it's a moment for every stakeholder concerned, whether they need to be an authority that needs to actually enforce this law, whether as an operator you need to actually comply with this law, whether an NGO you need to be part of the process. It's an opportunity to ask yourself what worked, what didn't work, what are the key learnings, how can we build best practices from key learnings, whether from best cases or, for me, the most important is from the worst cases. What are the learnings we can do, how we can move things for the best in the near future? Let's not forget, Europe is not an island. We operate globally, so we need to be able to see what is happening globally. If we put things on a global context, in the past, Europe was a preferred partner to do business. over time, things have changed. We are not anymore the preferred partner. We are one of the possible partners. Can we reverse that trend? What are the opportunities that we can actually bring forward? What is the added value we can bring as a European stakeholders into a global context? What makes us attractive? These are all questions we should all ask ourselves and see what are the pragmatic solutions we can put in place to make things operational and working and provide legal certainty and make sure everyone respects the timelines. Being member of this European cross-sectoral coalition is an opportunity to highlight the fact that our members, despite long permitting in our sector, a permit might take from 10 up to 15 years, do want to operate in Europe. They are asking to have these rules aligned, to have a legal certainty, and to make sure that we are able to deliver on policy goals. And these policy goals, they should not contradict each other.